Well, good morning in Lufkin, Texas. What's weather like down there today? It's cold here today. It's like 29 degrees, kind of windy out, kind of nasty. Not really nasty. Sun's out nice, shining, bright. It's just cold. 72. Man, I'd take some 72 degrees. I would definitely take some 72-degree weather. Jacob, I ain't gonna say a word about you watching the work, man. Ain't gonna say a word. But good morning, glad you joined us, even though you are at work. Just working on an order for a new bait shop to get ready to open up here pretty close to where I fish at. Trying to get him all taken care of. We're gonna do a we're gonna do 1,000 jigs. We're gonna take 1,000 jigs to him. Pretty hefty order, gonna keep me busy for a few more days at least. So who all we got on? Everybody let me know where you're from. And let me know what lake you fish at and what you fish for. Let's hear what everybody's plans are for this weekend. Also got to go do my 8-hour shift. Good morning, Ronnie Harris. East Texas, good morning. Bill Royals, good morning. It's crazy weather here. 1 week it'll be 85, 90. Yeah, it's been the exact same way here too. There's no, it was been in the 60s for 3 days this week. A storm front come through Wednesday, and we're still trying to recover from that. It just brought in a bunch of cold weather with it. Missy Kennedy, good morning. And I think next week, the best it's going to get next week is like in the 50s is what I'm seeing. But it's hard enough for them to predict what the weather's going to do tomorrow, more or less next week. Jimmy, good morning. Denver, Colorado. It's a balmy 2 degrees out. How do I do my streamers? How did I say? Jim from Denver, Colorado. It's a balmy 2 degrees out. Do you do streamers? Sometimes. I don't do streamers very often. I did them. I did a little bit to play with. 2 degrees in Colorado, 8 degrees in Iowa. In Fishing Lake, Sam Rayburn. I'm jealous. I'd like to be on Sam Rayburn this weekend. I don't think I'm gonna make it to any lake at all. Got some plans for tomorrow, and I gotta meet with a guy that owns that bait shop. I gotta pick up some jig heads, and I gotta meet another guy tomorrow about getting him to start using my plastics, and he was kind of interested in that and doing some hand ties from him. Nick, good morning. So Sunday, my day is pretty much spoken for. What's the best way to tie jig that has the plastic catcher on it? Plastic catcher. Oh, the bait keeper? I don't know if I've got one sitting up here with the bait. I might. If I got all the stuff right here, I'm going to show you how to do it. I might have to move here for a second and grab one. I'm going to show you. Do you want to leave the bait keeper on, or are you just going to work around the bait keeper? There's a couple different options you can do with the bait keeper. 48 in West Virginia, want to be outdoors. Morning, split shot. Good morning, split shot baits. Let me get some resin coat on this, and I'll see if I can find jig heads, and we'll kind of walk through it. You need to come down sometime to Sam Rayburn. Like 72, 75. Man, that is perfect. Absolute perfect weather. You couldn't order a more perfect day than that. Let's see, give me just a second. Let me grab some jig heads. We'll walk through one of those. All right, so I found them. All right, so here's kind of the Texas minnow style jig head with the bait keeper on it. This is what I do most of the time. If I've got them and I've got no choice but to use the one with the bait keeper, I take a pair of side cutters, clip it right there behind the head a couple times, work around the shank of that hook. And then I'm gonna get it to where it's loose and it turns. I'm gonna get that bait keeper point to where it's pointing down toward the bottom of it. I'm gonna cut into it. This one's got an exceptionally long bait keeper on it. It's usually a pretty simple little process. I'm gonna pick that lead off. And when I first started tying jigs and I had a hard time finding people to get jig heads from, I've done this quite a bit. But most of them don't have quite that long of a bait keeper on them, and they're pretty easy to cut off. This one's gonna make a fool out of me, and this one's gonna be a pain in the butt, but I couldn't find the short ones. There we go. Watch your fingers, don't get your fingers caught in that, in those pliers. Take them off. And they clip off pretty easy, but if you go to like Walmart or Bass Pro and you buy them that are already painted and you start clipping that lead off of them, a lot of times you'll end up cracking that paint and stuff like that. But you can pretty much get all the lead off of them. It's not really that hard. It's a little bit time consuming. Just get it down to where you don't have a bait keeper on anymore. All right, second option is to tie it with it on there. So you're gonna start with it in your vise. We're gonna start right there behind the head, and we're gonna give a thin little layer of wrap. And I'm not sure you can tie this one like this. I don't know if you can, because this one's got such a wide bait keeper on it, it's gonna be kind of tough. But we're gonna give it a shot though. We're gonna see if we can do it. This might probably gonna be trash, but we'll find out. I'm gonna take a couple pieces of hackle and I'm gonna get them pretty even. I'm gonna stack them right on top of each other. Pull off about what I need. That's gonna be about right to make that jig look halfway decent. We're gonna cut them off right there where my fingers are. I should have been at Cat Con. I had plans to go there, but kind of had to turn it down. And you see, you already got your body built up pretty thick. So we're gonna put some Chanel on it. Let's go with orange, the first one I pulled out. But it don't leave you a whole lot of room to be tying in. We're gonna come all the way back here to the back. And we're gonna start our Chanel in all the way back here. Wrap all the way back up. And like I said, the round bald heads are a little bit different. A normal, more conventional jig head's gonna be a whole lot easier to do. And we're gonna pop it out. Cut it off, and that is what I do with the bait keeper. You can tie it with the bait keeper, you can take the bait keeper off. If you take the bait keeper off, it's going to give you a lot more room to put body material in. Yeah, it makes a whole lot less room. You can add 2 or 3 more feathers, you can add some flash, but I was already starting to build up quite a bit with leaving the bait keeper on. But a pair of side cutters, 20 minutes, you can clip a lot of collars off. I did it a lot when I first started. And every once in a while I might order jig heads from somebody that's not familiar with my order, and they'll show up with the bait keepers on, and I just got to cut them off. But it's no big deal whatsoever to take that bait keeper off of them. Just be careful that you don't cut, when you're first starting your initial cut with that lead, be careful that you don't cut too far down into the shank of that hook. You don't want to weaken that hook up, and it's pretty easy to accidentally get a little too far in there. But it can be done. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not that big of an issue, and a lot of people start the same way. A lot of people get excited because they got all their stuff there, they're ready to tie, and then you got to go to Walmart or Bass Pro and buy jig heads, and you can't find them without collars. So you end up getting stuck doing what you got to do, which is what I guarantee you 99% of everybody that starts ends up doing the exact same thing, and just cut them collars off of them. Get it loose, spin it, cut it a couple more times down the side, and sometimes you can actually, depending on what kind of lead you got, sometimes that collar will actually, once you get that first cut up the side, usually it'll split apart and fall apart. That's all you can find is jigs with collars. If you've got Facebook, or you got, actually Facebook's the best way to get a hold of it. If you get a hold of Jason Brummel, he can pour them without the collars, and usually he don't complain about it. It's just what he does. But yeah, there is a lot of people selling them on the internet right now just for guys tying crappie jigs, and that's why I don't want to pour my own lead. I can find it pretty reasonable and still be able to work in my price of my jigs and all that, even buying jig heads that are made without the collars. And that jig head that I just showed you is just a smaller version of this jig head I've got here right now. But it's not that big of a deal. These come without the collars. These came with collars. I'd ordered a couple hundred of these to paint with collars, just to send them out like that. And then a couple hundred of them without collars, so that way I could tie them and not have to cut them all off all the time. But it's pretty simple. We're gonna get us off some more hackle. Pretty simple. If you got any questions about that, or need to find out how to get a hold of somebody to get you jig heads without the necks on them, send me a message and I'll try to get you a link to it. I'll just try to start putting his link up in all my videos. Jason's by far the best that I've ran across to get jig heads from, but he lives real close to me, so I don't have to pay for shipping. I can go to his house, or he swings by and drops them off at my house. Want to be outdoors? You are very welcome. So we're going to be doing all, good morning, Mark. We're going to be doing hackle jigs today with no Chanel. I get more orders for these jigs now than I do with Chanel, which was a good thing because it's getting sometimes kind of hard and tough to find Chanel. A lot of people do like those original, just silver unpainted heads. Lots of people. I get a lot of people that want them and don't want them painted, but I still like to paint them. I've got a silver that is actually like a, it's actually chrome. I have not, I haven't even looked into that, Nick. I haven't even, I totally even forgot about it, but I will be at the flash shop tomorrow. I carry a little notepad around with me everywhere I go now, but I will write that down so I don't forget. I will try to find out tomorrow for sure about that. I don't know if the flash shop will know or not. I've never noticed on a pack of feathers that say a grade, but I bet when they're raising the chickens, there's a grade in the chickens probably. I will try to see what I know about it, or what they know about it. When I got questions and don't have the clue, that's who I go to, are those guys. And sometimes they'll tell me, well, hell, we really don't know. I haven't been. When was the last time I went? Last time I went was 2 weeks ago. After you cut your... it's been a couple weeks since I went and I caught them, but they were out deep and it took me a while to find them, or it just took a little longer in the afternoon before they got to biting again. After I cut my feathers, what can remaining feathers be used for? I'll show you. This is what I do with the rest of my remaining feathers. 1/64th of an ounce. These might even be smaller than that. But I use the remaining bottom stems of the feathers to tie into my really small jigs. I don't want to waste feather tips on the really, really small ones when they don't really need it. I save those. I've got like 1 gallon Ziploc bags of chartreuse, pink, white, green, red, blue, and I save them all just for my little jigs. And now with, I don't sell a whole lot of real small little jigs anymore, and I think live scope's got something to do with that. I think people realizing they don't have to have those small little bitty jigs. How many barbs are on the feathers? That makes sense, Mark. If I had a little bitty small jig up here, I'd show y'all. I don't know if I got a really, really small head to do or not. I don't think I do. But that's what I use them for. I go down through here. Let me find the right feather. Like if I use just the tip for like 1/16, 1/8 ounce crappie jig, then I got the rest of all this here that turns into nothing but scrap. So I will grab this feather. Let's cut the tip off of it. Let's just go through a hole. One out here. So you'll see a lot of people tie jigs and they'll talk about using the V's. And what they're talking about is they reach in here in that stem and they make a small little cut. And then that leaves you this little section right here. Then they'll go down in here about another 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and they'll cut another piece off. And they'll take this piece here, which they're calling a V, they'll turn it sideways and they'll stack 3 or 4 of those up on top of each other, pinch it down to the stem, and then lay it up here and tie. You can tie that in. So that gives you a little bit more, like if you were tying all black and you took one of those little chartreuse V's, laid it up here on the bottom, a couple of them stacked up, it's going to give you an offset color down here without having to cut into a whole new feather. A lot of times I don't use the cut V's. The reason I don't, it's hard for me to get them all stacked up in my fingers. And when I lay them up there, they turn, they twist, they fall different directions, and it throws off the look of what I tie. And there's nothing wrong with using those V's. If you can use those V's and you can make them come out look good, use them. And that way you can get all the way down here to the fluff of this feather. The fluff is, to me, I consider to be the trash part of that. From, you can see where it changes. It gets real fluffy. It's pointy. It might not show it up real good, but this to me is absolutely the scrap part of that feather. From there down, I'm not using any of that. That's as absolutely as much of that feather as I'm going to use. But if I'm tying a really small 64th ounce jig, grab a hold of all those stems in your fingers and rip them off. Then you got all these little pieces left over. I should have done that with my other hand because I'm going to lose it all. But I get it all turned sideways. I usually got a bigger pinch of it than that, and I lay that on top of 64th, 80th, 1/100th of an ounce, and that makes perfect tail material for a really small jig. If you're tying trout flies, this stuff's awesome. You want to use the bottom side of that feather. So a lot of those feathers I'll save up, and there's a few guys around here that tie flies, and I donate it to them. I let them have them. Some of those guys can't afford to go out and buy the whole brand new packs of hackle, and I've usually got 3 or 4 guys standing in line waiting for what I've got left over. I don't charge them for it. I usually just meet them somewhere in Springfield and just give them to them. The fly shop will let me know sometimes, hey, this guy's looking for a bunch of leftover feathers if you got some, and that's usually how I find out who's gonna get them. Instagram, I don't see it. Wait for me to order bear jigs from them. Can you provide a link? Patriot. If we're talking about the Patriot, there's 2 different ones. There was Patriot Jigs and Patriot Baits. One of those guys, I can't remember the name of the right one, but is totally out of business. My earlier videos, I talked about that guy doing my jig heads. They're no longer in business. I get all of my jig heads from Jason Brummel, or I get them all from Limits Tackle. No other 2 places will I ever buy another jig head from. Fishing with Dave, I've gotten some from him, but with the quantity and amount I go through, Jason Brummel is who I get all my jig heads from. I get all my powder paint from Jason Brummel, all my jig heads from Jason Brummel, and I'll get some oddball ones from Limits Tackle, pill heads, some minnow heads. I get the stick-on eyes. Those come from Limits Tackle. Steve in Texas is really good about shipping, getting me what I need. He usually knows what I'm talking about. When I can send him a picture, he'll like, okay, this is what you want, and then they'll send it to me. A lot of people will stack the V's even, put them right up on top of each other, lay it on top of your jig, and then tie it in. Like I said, to me, I've beat my hands up over the years as a welder. I can't even feel those V's in between my fingers, to tell you the truth. It's hard for me to get them to stack, so I don't do it. Yep, Steve is awesome with his shipping. And if I know Steve is a military veteran, and I believe Steve hires retired vets, veterans that are kind of down and out. I'm pretty sure that's who he hires, and he helps run his shop. You have 1, 2, and 3. Grade 1 is the best, mainly for fly tires. Yeah, 3 is probably what we use for jig tails, I would think, because I've seen some packs of hackle be all the way up to like 75 or 80 bucks. And it gets those 75, $80 a hackle or stuff like that they use in streamers. Um, this stuff's pretty neat, and I love using this. That's all I got, and I'm very, very scarce with this. I use it very sparingly. Um, a lot of times, what I'll use this for is if I'm tying like natural kind of jigs. And it'll actually, I'll stream it out. And then this is what I will use in the necks. Kind of like that. You see those people do those ones where the bodies kind of stand up? That's usually what they use. Is stuff like this. I use this very sparingly. You can make that same, I don't know what got me off on the subject of talking about tying these necks in like that, but you can even use a regular feather. And I'll strip the end of it out and get down to where the stem's a little bit thinner. Pull some of that hackle back off of it, cut it. And I'll tie that stem in right there on that neck. And then you can take these feathers, move them back down, and you can tie those necks in the same way. So you don't have to have that to do the neck. It's kind of neat. That's pretty pricey. I kind of used, I guess if I was going to talk about using a grade of feathers, mine would be like the Great Value brand, probably. But yeah, I mean, there's feathers go on and on and on. Peacock feathers, pearls. How would someone contact this Steve guy? Limits Tackle, and I'm pretty sure he's got a website, limitstackle.com, is how you get a hold of him. Limits Tackle, they're in Austin, Texas, I think. It's a good guy to order from. Really good guy to order from. Never had any problems getting anything from Steve or shipping anything at all. He's usually, as I'm ordering it that night, he will send me tracking numbers. He does all the shipping and postal stuff right there in his shop. I'll usually get a tracking number within probably 30 minutes of making an order, and it's usually here exactly when he says it's going to be here. How do you get a hold of Jason? There's only two ways you can get a hold of Jason and get stuff from Jason. One is to go through Facebook Messenger, which I'm pretty sure that's probably not his favorite way to do it, but he will take orders through Facebook Messenger, or you can find him on eBay at Jason's Tackle. He carries everything from bass jigs, plastic baits, jig heads, powder paint. I think he'll even sell hooks, molds. There's not a lot Jason don't have. Jason's probably like one of the biggest tackle distributors you've never heard of. And nothing wrong with that. I can sometimes understand why he wants to be that way. But yeah, Dallas Fort Worth, you're right. Dallas Fort Worth, that's where he's from. Steve from Limits Tackle. You're absolutely right, that's where he's from. Off the saddle. And if you watch around on Facebook, if you do any kind of social media, you'll run across people that are selling stuff. The guy I've been getting my hackle from, other than getting it from Plateau Fly Shop, is I can't think of his name, but he's usually got a pretty good deal on them. Hackle, Chanel's, stuff like that, and he'll always post it as like selling out. I'm not really sure why he posts it that way, but Jordan Muscle Chick, something like that. He has really good deals on his hackle. I've been getting, morning Glenn, I've been getting 4-ounce packs of hackle from him for a little less than half price. Slab Syndicate jigs. They're another one I will get stuff from too. Well, like I said, you'll run across some people on social media that will be selling stuff. Just be careful who you get from. One good thing about buying stuff off people off social media is you can snoop a little bit, do a little looking, see what they're all about. But I've had no issues buying anything for Jordan. He's been spot on every time. And it helps, guys, if y'all have got more than one way to pay for it. A lot of times on YouTube or Facebook orders and things like that, where I've run across somebody that's selling something, I will buy it off of them with Cash App. I know a lot of people don't like using Cash App, PayPal, and things like that, but and I totally get it. I totally understand why, but a lot of times it is really easy for processing and shipping, and it's kind of an easy way to help add to your books. I don't want to promote any kind of cashless society, but sometimes that works out pretty easy. Clinton Payne, what's up, buddy? I'm gonna tie a few more before I get off here. I get on social media and tie live and get to chatting, and right now I'm about 25-30 jigs behind where I need to be. I plan on taking, other than stopping by the fly shop, I plan on taking all day tomorrow off. I don't think I'm gonna do anything tomorrow. It'll be the first time I think I've had I've taken a day off. I usually tie jigs every morning in my full-time job 5 days a week, and then usually hit it again on Saturdays and Sundays too, tying jigs. So usually 7 days a week. It's all good though. My daughter, she's helping me full time now. She's not down here right now. She had a few things she had to do this morning. But she helps, she's down here, me and her tackling orders together. She's a little social media shy. I don't want to be in front of the cameras, which eventually I'll fix that. I'll break that. And we have got 24 people on. If y'all don't mind, hit that like. Please hit that thumbs up. Keeps that algorithm moving, keeps things up close, and better chance that other people are going to see it. It's going to move on. Helps my channel out, honestly, a whole lot more than what people think. Hitting that like button does a whole lot to help improve your channel. Oh man, I hate to hear that, Glenn. Actually, I was trying to get really far and caught up. I got an appointment with the surgeon Monday. Have something kind of taken care of, checked on, and I could be down and out for a while. But we'll talk to the surgeon first, see what he says, see what he's got to say. We've got 9 likes. Thank you, folks. Appreciate that. But hitting that like and sharing the video does, it helps me out a lot. and starting. I really hope to be starting in it by middle of March, but it might be early April, mid-April. I'm gonna start doing plastic baits. I'm gonna have my own line of plastic baits. I planned on buying live scope, but I think I changed my mind on that and decided to go making crappie baits. So I'm gonna take that money and invest it again in something else. And actually, that brings up another question I've got for y'all. I need help knowing what molds I need to get. What baits most people fish with the most. I mean, I've got a pretty good idea. I crappie fish a lot, and I know some molds that I definitely have to have, and I know some that other people like. So I'm gonna poll all of y'all, anybody that's watching this video, even if it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, let me know what style crappie plastics you fish with. Which ones are the best, and that's what I'll make sure I got. Beaver tail, I looked at the beaver tail right off the bat. That's one I know for a fact that I'm going to add is the beaver tail. 2 inch, 2.5 inch, 3 inch. I'm thinking 2. Clint, what do you think? 2, or should I go bigger? And that beaver tail mode that was not cheap. Good morning, Joe Hawk. How are you? 2s and 3s, that's what I was thinking. 2s and 3s. I was looking at the beaver tails yesterday. And I know, I'll add everybody's, the stinger. For sure, I'll definitely do the stinger. I don't really want to do the stinger because everybody has a stinger. But I was definitely looking at the beaver tail. I'd even kind of come up with a name for it, like Brush Buster or something like that. Or thank you, Missy. Appreciate that. Don't cost you a dime, and you have no idea if you do a YouTube channel, even a TikTok channel, how much that thumbs up changes what we do. Sometimes you get to a point where you're just feel like you're beating your head against the wall trying to get your stuff to go somewhere on YouTube, and get you almost to the point. Several times I've been at the point where I'm done with it, not going to do it anymore, and but it does. I greatly appreciate that thumbs up, likes, the shares, the follows, hit the subscribe button, and you can even hit the like on, sitting in a recliner watching the TV. Scroll up once and then scroll to your right. I know a lot of people think about a 3-inch crappie bait being too big, but I've fluke, not jerk baits. I thought about the flukes also. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I almost don't want to get the stinger, period, just because the market is flooded with stingers. Well, thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I know what you mean by the fluke, and I was thinking about a 3-inch fluke also. You tell people, you got a 3-inch crappie bait, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's way too big." It's not. Actually, one day I almost caught a limit of crappie bass fishing off a 6-inch black and blue lizard. Little lake on Fort Knox, Kentucky. Little electric motor lake, and just hit a school of crappie that were close to the bank, man, and they were one right after another until I limited out all but 2 off of a 6-inch black and blue lizard, Zoom lizard. I'll never forget that. And that was like a 30 fish limit. It was, I think I caught like 26 or 27 sitting in one spot, throwing right over by a log. They were spawning fish, so they were a little more aggressive, but it was a 6-inch lizard. They had no problem eating that lizard. Crappie are a lot more aggressive than what people give them credit for, even in these winter months. Crappie on baby brush hog, watermelon color. I don't doubt that a bit. Here back a couple weeks ago, not the last time I went fishing, but time before that, I caught more off a 1/4 ounce jig than I did off the 64ths and 32nds. You know, and the water temperature was 34 degrees. It was one of those days where, you know, get on there and ask the experts how you fish, you know, in freezing cold water, downsize, downsize, downsize. And I was using a 1/4 ounce jig to get my 64ths and 32nds down deeper. I don't think I would finish that jig. But yeah, I was using a 1/4 ounce jig to get my little jigs down deeper, using it at the bottom. Kind of instead of using a weight, I was using another jig as a trolling weight. And I caught more off that 1/4 ounce jig than I did off the little ones. I do too. Honestly, my favorite setup is 2 1/8 ounce jigs, or an 1/8 ounce and a 16th ounce. Sassy shad also. Okay, I'll keep that in mind when I get ready to order the molds here in the next couple weeks. Definitely the beaver tail, the fluke. I have done so much research on molds and plastisols. For the last 4 weeks, that is all I have looked up. And there's so many different people that make molds, and I know I've heard a few names, so I know there's a few that are good, and then there's a few I've never heard of that I don't know about. I don't want to say who, but I mean there's your normal do it. Like Fat Guys baits or molds. There's a couple other places I've been looking at, but I've done a lot of research, a whole lot of research, and I've got some added to the cart, ready, waiting for the checkout, just trying to get it all to come together in one shot. Selling molds, he's going out of business. Glenn, give him my phone number. Let me know what I really want to know what he's got. I've been looking at a lot of that too, but I'm kind of careful with buying used molds because I don't. They will wear out after time. If you get a hold of that guy and tell him to get a hold of me either on Facebook, social media, somehow, I'd like to know about what he's got. Because the price of some of those molds was a lot more than what I thought. I mean, I knew they weren't cheap. That is 45 minutes I've been on live, and I think I'm going to get off here and try to salvage a little bit more time for today. Glenn, I greatly appreciate that. But I am done for today for a little while. If y'all got any questions, anything today, tomorrow, next week, send me a message on YouTube. I'll try to get back to you. I try to answer everything that comes up on YouTube. If I don't, I apologize, but I usually try to answer everything. So it's not that I ignore your comments. Sometimes I get busy. I read it, I get busy, and I see it like 3 weeks, you know, but I try not to. I try to get to them as fast as I can. Kevin, you have a good day. Everybody else have a good day. Please, if you haven't yet, subscribe, hit like, share. Next time we do it, Fat Guys Fishing, they're good. Plus, they have molds with sliding systems. You don't have to add tails and inject all once. I've seen that. I got a couple molds with him that are sitting in a cart just waiting for me to pull the trigger on them. So maybe we'll end up doing a whole nother section of YouTube, and I've already planned on how I'm going to rearrange this. All this has got to shift down, and I want all my plastic injection molding to be right down here by the door where I got a little better ventilation. So hopefully sometime here pretty soon, near future, maybe one time we'll do a jig time video, and next time we'll inject some plastics. So that's all I got. Everybody's fishing this weekend. Good luck. Send me some pictures. Let me know how y'all do. And until next time, like, share, hit that subscribe button, please. Thank you.